we have imported your first set of images, we have rated your images, we've exported your images. Now it's time to create a contact sheet. Up at the top of our screen here, we're going to go from library all the way over to print. And again, if you can't see this, if all you see is to map or book or slideshow and you don't see print, you're going to click on those two little arrows and go to print. Now inside print, what we're going to do is we're going to create a contact sheet and we're going to create it in a custom setting. We're going to go over here to the template browser and we're going to just click on that little arrow next to Lightroom templates. We're going to start by choosing a 4x5 contact sheet. And what that's going to do is it's going to set up our images so that they appear 4 images across and 5 images down. Now it's only going to use the images that are selected. So if you want to show all of the images that you have created, you need to make sure that your filter is set up to see them correctly. So in this case here, I only have one image selected, so only one image is showing. If I click on Control A with my keyboard, now it's going to show all 410 images are selected and that we have 21 pages. In the beginning, for my students at least, I require a minimum of 24 images. What we're going to do now is we're going to modify this. Right now we have 21 pages and that's a lot, but we're also not really getting the information that we need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tell it to rotate to fit. Now nothing's going to happen just yet, and I'm going to show you in a second why. Rotate to fit is going to essentially turn this into a film strip, the way that it was when we used to do this in the darkroom. All of our images, regardless of whether you were shooting vertically or horizontally, will appear in the same way. The next part I'm going to do is I'm going to change my rows to 6. Then I'm going to change my keep square. I don't want it to keep square. In fact, I want it to really just change the width. This is going to allow it to line up more like how we used to with the darkroom, and this gives us 24 images per page. Now the next piece is I really don't want to see the title of the image on there. That's not going to be as useful to me as what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to change this from file name and we're going to go to edit, because I want to see the exposure information. I want to see how you're experimenting with the different settings so that I can give you more specific feedback on how to improve. So if I'm seeing that you always have underexposed images, or if you're always using the same aperture, or you're always using the same shutter speed, there's some places where you might be able to experiment a little bit more and learn the camera and learn the settings a little bit more so that you have the ability to fix that. I'm going to tell it I don't want the file name in there. I'm going to delete that entirely. I do want the exposure information in there. So I'm going to tell it exposure. And then I also want to see the ISO. So when we do the exposure, the only thing it shows us is the shutter speed and the aperture. And I want to see the ISO as well, because that is a big piece of what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to click on ISO speed rating. Now I put a space in between here because if I don't, it's just going to be flush up against that piece there. And this is already a pretty long title. So I want to see the shutter speed, I want to see the aperture, and I want to see the ISO. And I'm going to hit done. Okay, so you guys can see this goes all the way across and then some, and it kind of like bends the line. The next piece I can do is I can change my settings from 10 to 8. We don't need it to be super huge. You can see I kept the same settings pretty much all the way through on this page, and I was experimenting a little bit at the beginning, and then later on in my session, like if we went to another page, as we got into different areas, some of these things changed. Our ISO changed, our aperture changed. Shutter speed stayed pretty much steady almost all the way through until we started playing with trying to create a bit of a silhouette. And when we got to the beach, our settings changed drastically. So we had completely different lighting at the beach, so our settings changed as well. Okay, so this gives us a lot more information to work with for your teacher and for you, so that you can also start to see that pattern, and so can your teacher, and this is part of your metadata. There's 2 more things that we need to do. At this point, this is unsaved. We want to export this because we want to be able to turn it in. But what we also want to do is save this for the next time. Now, we're not going to click on Create Saved Print. We're actually going to come over here, and we're going to go to User Templates. and we're going to tell it to, let's see, where's the plus sign? It's up here at the top. So template browser, we're going to click on the plus sign, and we're going to create a new template. And in this case, we're going to call this contact sheet. All right, no spaces. So contact sheet, and we're going to put that in user templates. And this means the next time we come in, regardless of how many images we have selected, so let's say I just select this one image, it's gonna set it up in that sense. So if I were to go into something else and I go back over to library and I'm looking through my images and I'm like, you know what, I only want to do this with the red images. I'm going to go back into print and I'm going to select all of those red images. Ooh, and I switched over to this like horizontal thing. I want to go back to my contact sheet. But if I go in here and I click on 4x5 contact sheet, it puts me back to this one. And then I have to go through all those steps again. But we saved contact sheet under user templates, so all I have to do is click on that one button, and then I'm ready to go and export. The next part to this is where it says print job. We don't want it to go to the printer, we want to go to JPEG file. And then from here, what we're going to do is we are going to export this, so we're going to tell it to print file. Now we can print a file and we can put this into a folder. It's going to go into our exports folder. And you can put it into your Finals Mackenzie or whichever folder you've created for this specific client. And then because we're submitting more than one page, we can't name it right now. So all we can do is select folder. And that's kind of the downside. When we do this, when we tell it to select folder, it's going to name it itself. And then we have to go back into the folder and rename it later on. If you're only submitting one, so let's say I only put one of these in here. So I'm going to select just like 24 photos. So I only have one page right here, one page, and I go print a file. Now it's telling me I can choose the folder and I can save it with a file name. And then it'll only let us save it as a JPEG. Some downsides, I wish Lightroom would allow us to export this as a PDF so it's all one document, but it doesn't. So we're going to export them as a JPEG, and if you have multiples, you're just going to, so multiple pages, you're just going to print a file, choose your folder, hit select folder, and it's going to put them in there. Now, it is going to give you this overwrite confirmation because when you put something into that folder, it's telling you that the contents might be overwritten. And the reason for that is because you might have already put a contact sheet into this folder and that contact sheet wasn't named, so it's just going to write over that one. This is why you want to put your contact sheets directly into the folders where you're saving your images so that it's not writing over any of those images or any of those other contact sheets that you've used before. It's preparing the print job. It's going to take a few moments to get through. Once this bar ends here, it's going to disappear and you know that your file has been saved and you're good to go. You can now close out of Lightroom and now you can go and turn in your images to whatever platform your teacher has asked of you.